What's pussy poppin'? My name is Ariane Andrew.
And I'm Matt Dillon.
Oh, yes!
Welcome to a fresh, piping hot episode of Sippin' the Tea, where we
Sip the tea, and our guest spill that tea.
He gonna spill it, let me tell you. But who's your furry friend, for those that haven't tuned in before?
Who haven't tuned in before, this is one of our co-hosts, Little Glitty.
And this is Mama Wake Up. Wake up!
Hey!
Welcome. All right, guys, super pumped because today we have film director, photographer, all-round bad man, Mr. Malcolm Venville, straight in from London. What's up, pal?
What's going on,
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So how are you enjoying LA?
Well, you know, I love LA this time of year. It's perfect, isn't it?
You used to live here, right?
I used to live in Los Angeles, was here for about 5 or 6 years, and it's the most perfect place in the planet, weather-wise, isn't it?
It really is.
And as a filmmaker and image maker, it's a beautiful place to be. You know.
I like that term, image maker.
Yes.
I like the kind of juxtaposition between when I was looking at what you've done, and I kind of stumbled on the photography, and that to me, I love photography books, coffee table books. The photos are so vivid and rich. Right. Is that, you know, you have so many prongs and ladders and different things that you do. Is that a passion project, or is that something you know, how does that fit into the grand scheme of things?
Of film directing.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because my parents were profoundly deaf, so I grew up in this silent world, you know, and I couldn't really do anything else except make images, you know, because deaf people use their eyes to understand the world. So I had this terrible job when I left school, and my best friends were at art school, and they wanted me to go to art school because you know, you could hang out late, go to bed late. You know, we didn't really do much work, did a bit of sketching, and I couldn't get into college because I didn't have enough qualifications. So they lent me their drawings, and they let me in because I thought I was an exceptional artist. But I couldn't draw to save my life. But what I could do is take photographs.
I was about to say that the vividness of these photos, it kind of reminds me, there's a lot of photography out there. It kind of, there's a whole story, and the way you just explained how that started and how you grew up, it kind of does resonate and makes more sense to me now. Right. Knowing that, because I can look at that image and it's kind of like they're talking to me and I'm getting a story, which is obviously the purpose of what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, no, it came naturally to me, you know, because you know, with deaf people, you know, suddenly if this conversation went bad, you know, your voice would change, and I'd know when to start running, you know.
Hey, that's a wrap. Thanks for the love, Malcolm.
We also have a comedian over here.
I was about to say, yeah, when's the stand-up show?
But you know, with deaf people, they look at your body language. You know, that's all they've got is what you're.
Well, I'm giving you.
Are we serving?
We're serving you. Come on, Malcolm, we're serving you. All right, I want to talk about, actually, because it's interesting how Mr. Malcolm came to be here. That you guys...
Well, we can't say because we did sign some NDAs.
We can talk about where you kind of met.
Yeah, so I met him. He was the film director of a commercial that I did. And that's just kind of, I respected his work. He was such an amazing person to work with. You know, you go on set sometimes and sometimes people feel like they're, you know, I've gone through this much stuff, so it allows me to be an asshole. You know what I mean? And so I didn't get that from him. He was just very welcoming, and I mean, I had such a good time. And so from there, I followed his work and wanted to stay in touch because I like to surround myself around people who are positive and that are succeeding in life.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and vice versa. You know, we had a little wrestle as well, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We had a quick.
Of course they did.
We had a quick.
Jelly wrestle?
No, but he also has a book out about luchador wrestling. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, no,
yeah.
You know, like a few years back, I was in Mexico City and doing some commercials, and I went to some of the fights, you know, and it's so blew me away because I'd never really taken color photographs and I'd avoided them, and I realized, well, let's do it. Let's jump into this world of luchadors, you know, which is intensely colorful. And there wasn't really that much, you know, reference of them in many photographs. So I managed to get this book published about Mexican wrestling, hence our conversation about wrestling.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
He's just a jack of all trades.
You are a jack of all trades with so many branches to what you do.
Oh, thank you.
In the film sense, I know because I was looking at your IMDb and checking out what You've done a lot of different projects. What was it like, I think, for people, one of the big names that
Yeah.
comes out, Keanu Reeves, what was it like working with him? Before this started, I sat on the subway next to him once, and I was like, I've never met a more down-to-earth person ever in my life.
Yeah, he's a lovely, sweet man, and we worked on a project together called Henry's Crime, and it was really a beautiful experience, you know. And we worked together on the script with the writers and the producers, and we had it was like a year-long trajectory together.
Is that something in terms of projects that you like to be involved, multifaceted levels? So you have, you like it to be a collaborative event rather than kind of like a dictatorship of like this thing? Because I think projects that you watch, films and what have you, when directors and writers, and there's like a flow of energy and a flow of, dialogue, is that how you kind of run your sets? Is that...
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the director has to make all the decisions ultimately.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a kind of a collaborative environment. But you need to drop the axe.
You got the final say. He's like, that's a big no.
But I think when you're working with experienced people, you all come together and you're all kind of dancing to the same tune.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a metaphor for life, though. If we actually all did come together and try and dance to the same tune, maybe.
Well, some directors over the years I've heard and seen, they like the conflicts on set. They love to have conflicts. It produces some kind of energy.
You got any gossip there?
Oh,
I want to drop a name and see if you know Michael Bay. I've heard terrible things about him.
Well,
No.
Let me have a listen.
She'd love a role in Michael Bay's film, but maybe it was.
Well, Michael, I can't speak to Michael, but was it Hitchcock? One of my favorite, Alfred Hitchcock, who directed The Birds. He once said.
Never heard of him. I was like, what? Yes, iconic.
He said that if he died before the day his film was going to be shot, it would turn out perfectly, because it was all worked out. Hitchcock was like, it's all worked out. But other directors run from day to day.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. I'm a little bit more in that kind of Hitchcock world of like to map things out, know where I'm going.
I have a question for you. Yeah. So for people who are upcoming actors or actresses, what advice would you give them, especially with pilot season being here?
It's a really good question. It's a really difficult one to answer. I think it's all about passion.
Okay.
So I think with actors, it's all about getting involved in acting. It's all about improv. It's all about stage. It's all about shooting your own work, creating your own work, bringing yourself to an attention. It's like
creating your.
That's what I was about to say. See,
creating your own content.
There's repetition that you hear from people, and you just nailed it on the head. It's now you're in an day and age where you have to create your own content.
Do you want to be the director of my short film that I'm doing?
Oh, sure. Thanks for joining us at Sippin. Oh, he left. Bye.
No, I just put him on the spot right now. No, I just wrote a short film.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Well,
so.
can you pitch it? They used to say 25 words or less, didn't they?
Can I pitch it? It's
words.
Relatable. What you see on Instagram, it's not really real. It's a monopoly.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where's that drum? Add that in later.
Yeah, so...
Oh, you're coming in hot.
I am coming... let me...
Short films are a beautiful medium. They're an amazing medium. And I made a short film that really helped my career about my parents.
Which is that's a fascinating... I'm very sorry about that.
Some layers back. How,
What?
Tell us about the short film.
Well, the BBC used to, in Channel 4 in England, they used to basically do 8 short films a year for new directors.
Okay.
And I was working with this writer, and we were struggling with an idea. And I said, what about the day my parents met? And she was like, okay, let me hear it. And I pitched it to her, and she went, that's brilliant. Let's write it down. We wrote it down, and they gave us the money to make it. And I ended up casting my mother and my father, both deceased now, but it was amazing at the time to bring in actors to play your parents. It was pretty trippy.
That's like a beautiful memento that you have for your life, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing to have in your box of life.
But I think short films are really, talking about actors is a great way of showcasing what you do. I mean, if you pick the right subject, the right content that can illustrate your inner beauty.
Exactly.
Outer beauty.
I like that. I think that's important, I guess, in this business, but also in any kind of life scenario that like you have to put in and find other platforms and channels now, and not just TV channels, but channels and routes to be noticed, to be seen, to perfect your craft, no matter what you're doing.
Totally.
And
It's all about craft,
I think for you, the acting question is good. What about, the the next generation of Spielbergs and what have you. What, people have those ideas and thoughts and did you used to watch films and be like...
Growing up, I wasn't, with my parents in their world, it was like there was no subtitles then. It was really difficult to but as soon as I got into college and I fell into love with films straight away. Because I wasn't a great reader, I wasn't a great, but when I saw films, I was locked in. That's what I always wanted to do.
It's always heard that not being a great reader, but you're a phenomenal storyteller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you flip the script on that, and actually, you share through the medium of
totally
of storytelling.
Yeah.
Which I think is such an art.
It really is an art.
Well, photography is an amazing medium. Because first of all, you don't do very many meetings. You go.
Yeah, no, it's not like.
Yeah.
And there's no.
It's not like making a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is essentially 3 months of doing meetings.
Exactly.
All day long for months and months and months. So.
That's great. But even in the photography, and you guys, we're going to put the link up here so you can check out the photography. I think you hit a nail on the head with the photography because it does kind of tell stories, and it's like you do a lot of portraits, and they're not. This is not, it's another level, and the colors and the the kind of vibes that you share through that. I think people would be. You're definitely a jack of all trades.
His Instagram, by the way, guys, you have to check out his Instagram. Please tell everybody where your Instagram is because he does a lot of storytelling on there with the amazing photos.
Well, go to Venve1, go to Venve1, Venve1, and what I love about Instagram is it's an instant gallery, it's an instant showcase. It's like when I was a young photographer, I struggled to get my pictures seen. It was really difficult.
Yeah.
But now it's instant distribution.
Exactly.
And photography is a beautiful medium to practice your visual arts in composition, framing, expression, gesture. And it's very mute. It has to work a lot harder. And
I like that comparison there. Do you think in terms of growth for do you think a good director should look into photography? Like they balance each other out in terms of one can help build the other?
Yeah, I think if you look at a lot of, who directors working today, they're all about visual economy. They're all about they're all about making it simple and effortless to look at, like composition, and even the great directors are really amazing photographers.
Who are your, I guess, you brought up Hitchcock and you brought up you follow more in line with his storytelling and who are your people that you look up to, have looked up to in terms of that have kind of framed your career?
It's quite interesting, because my parents' deafness, my dad loved silent movies, and I still show my kids today, like Buster Keaton or Chaplin.
I was about to say that we're based in LA here, and they just actually shut down one of the last silent film theaters just off Melrose, which I thought it's such an experience, and it's a different experience. It's not something that I had ever grown up with in terms of your story, but it fascinated me.
Oh yeah, I think if you revisit silent movies, it's mind blowing.
I've never.
We're gonna watch one because for me, I think you got to work a little bit harder to immerse yourself in it, and some of the greats are.
Well, what happened was with film was, the silent film became perfect, and then sound came along, and they couldn't move the camera anymore because of the mics. The mics, they had to hide the mic in the, so actors had to be near the mic, If you weren't near the mic, so it killed cinematography. And it took many years for it to come back, but, I like all the greats. Obviously I'm a big fan of Hitchcock, and I love European filmmaking and Japanese filmmaking. I like these current Mexican directors, the guy who directed The Revenant, I love his work.
That was so good.
Yeah, Inarritu, he's an amazing director, and I'm really open to film and TV. That's what I like looking at. That's what I like watching.
Okay. And what is next for you? What's any tea to spill?
I just co-directed a project, a very interesting documentary about with a really interesting director and actor called Fisher Stevens.
Okay.
And he invited me to direct this project with him about Formula E. Formula E is this electric racing car formula.
I kind of gauged that. I was like, let me just, and then I was like, it has to be about cars.
It's about electric cars, and it's really it was totally a new thing for me. But I followed this formula around the world to all these cities where these electric cars race, and it's really a film about the lives of the drivers. The lives of racing drivers.
That's actually that sounds very interesting.
It's super interesting, and it was an amazing bubble to be inside, because when you're a winning racing driver, it's fascinating to watch. When you're a losing racing driver, it's even more fascinating.
I was about to say that's like a car crash.
It really is.
Everybody's drawn to both facets of that dynamic and the dichotomy of like the winners and the struggle as like not being the winner.
Yeah.
And that's to me is like that makes fascinating like a documentary like that would be.
Yeah, well,
for you, I can imagine that would you get to like be that fly on the wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's absolutely brilliant. And Fisher's he's an actor and he can connect with these drivers in a brilliant way. So I was like helping him frame and compose these images, and it's interesting. Of course, it's very clean. It's green and very quiet.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's going to take over the world of motor racing, but Formula E. But it's definitely worth looking at.
Where can we see that?
Yeah.
We don't know right now. It's going to be ready in a couple of months.
So when you give your details again, we'll have the website here. They can just tune in and keep up with you.
Yeah, it's a whole exciting world that I think it's coming together. It'll be ready next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
It's untitled right now, but we will have it.
Like an untitled project. It's coming right back at you.
I am shook. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. Especially, I didn't know the backstory of your parents.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, wow. So much
hats off to you.
Yeah,
Thank
hats off
you.
to you, and much success because
Thank
you're
you.
an amazing individual.
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
he's
I
already
appreciate it.
successful. I think there's only up and up and up and up.
Well, no, I
The sky
appreciate
has
it.
no limits.
And humble too.
Yes.
So one more time on your website. One more time to hear your Instagram and your website.
My website is Malcolm Venville, .com, and my Instagram is Venv1, which is VENVE1. So thanks so much.
You got to check that out because the imagery, the photos that we've talked about
It's
here today
amazing.
is very next level, and I think it's I think it's something that is part of your history that will go down in history as well
Thank
as
you.
the film and the docs and,
I
and
appreciate
all of
it.
that.
and
Thank you.
whatever else is to come.
Thank you.
You guys can follow me across the board at Ariane and Drew. You know how to be a little extra like guacamole. It's always a little extra. And follow this little nugget at Glitty Glit.
I'm Matt Dillon. You can follow me at Matt Dillon 1983. And if you can see this one, I'm not gonna wait for today. I want to really thank Malcolm again for coming.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For gracing us with your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys, we will see you here at Focus TV for another new episode coming up soon.
Of Sippin' the Tea.
Let's sip it.
Let's
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, you got the wrong number. Click.